Hey, it's After the Gig. I'm Jesse Humphrey, and today on the show, we have part 2 with Gavin Castleton. We talk about his album Pattern Breaker. We get into moving from the West Coast back to Rhode Island, a whole bunch of really cool stuff. And we'll be finishing up this conversation with part 2 here. After the Gig has a newsletter. It's a newsletter that I release every Sunday at 10 a.m. It's out every week, features a bunch of news and my thoughts about music in general and being a musician and the business behind it. There's a link below, so hit it and sign up and you'll get an email from me with music news and cool stuff every Sunday. And the After the Gig Patreon community is growing. It's very, very exciting. Head over to patreon.com/afterthegig to check out all the stuff that's on Patreon. It's a community there. There's all kinds of behind-the-scenes videos and information, including the Behind the Wheel series. Right now, the members of Carbon Leaf, and we sit down while traveling to gigs and we have conversations. It's very, very fun, very, very cool. A lot of information there. Check it out, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Without further ado, here's part 2 with Gavin Castleton. How has being back here affected your music and the balance of your work and music and all that stuff?
I think my balance is, I think I had a lot of trepidation about coming back to Rhode Island because I have tons of history here. And it was a lot easier to do so because I moved out to a quiet, sleepy, Trumpy beach town. And I shouldn't say Trumpy, I should just say patriotic. Bristol's very patriotic. But I think that...
oldest... The oldest
July
4th of July
parade
in the country.
And I think I underestimated how much easier that would make it, that it wasn't Providence and that it wasn't Cranston. Only in that it would feel like I was moving backwards if I did that. Not because those towns are inherently bad or anything like that, but just because I think I have some stupid pride about not returning to your hometown. You know, it's the person that like moves to New York and then they come back. You know how it is. Like I think I laughed at those people.
You're in the house talking to the guy that did that.
You moved away and came back. Did you have the same feelings? Like, how did you feel? Were you, or did it feel warm? Like, I think for some people that feels amazing, and for me that had a different home life in Rhode Island, it did not feel, or I was concerned about it.
Right. So I agree. It was definitely a hurdle I felt like I had to get over, but it only had to do with extenuating circumstances. So like we lived in Boston for years. If it was up to me, I would still live there if I could afford it, child care, stuff like that. So all those things kind of like compound into moving your decision along. That's why when we moved back to Rhode Island, when we had our son, I moved to Providence rather than going to Cranston or anything like that, because I didn't want to come back. That did feel to me like moving backward. But now that I'm in this like different stage of my life and I wanted to have a house, I wanted to have some space or whatever, I'm close to my parents and just have the family around to be able to like support, child care, all that stuff, schools and all that stuff. I was like, all right, I guess we'll live in Cranston. It was more that. Yeah. But the other thing is like my wife is from Ireland. Wow. So like she doesn't, it'd be one thing if I like was married to someone from Cranston, moving back to that would feel to me like,
that's a good point.
Like really having hooks in, at least like, she's, we go to Ireland, we travel a lot, like I'm on the road, so I don't feel like I don't feel stuck or I don't feel like whatever. So it feels like a nice home base, and it took some time to like, combat those feelings, but I don't have that. I don't have that anymore, which is awesome. which is cool. But I can 1000% understand wanting to come back, but create a new space or create a new thing to build your world around, rather than be an old situation. You know,
And where we grew up too is a small town. Cranston it feels small in a way.
It does feel small.
If I were to move there, and even Providence actually feels really small in that way. And if you're in a scene like a music scene, it feels exceptionally small because you know kind of everybody. You keep running into the same people because you all work together.
Yeah.
I think where we are is wonderfully different, and I think that made all the difference between me accepting my fate. And I think that
Your fate.
accepting my own demise. And I think that it's also like side note, like, and this is partly thanks to my partner, but I developed an appreciation for New England architecture and nautical themes and like all these things that when I lived here were peripheral and I never even thought about. And and now I'm like, oh, there is cool stuff about this place. Like it doesn't, I'm approaching it more like a foreigner in a way that makes me appreciate it and makes me realize there were some cool things about where I grew up that I didn't really take advantage of or even have much of an awareness about. That's not to say there's not a bunch of other places I want to live in my life and try and all these things, but I also, for what it's worth, moved from Portland, Oregon in the middle of the pandemic when Portland, Oregon has been like this in certain ways that made it harder and harder to feel great about it.
Yeah. The last time we played there in the city, it was tough. It was rough.
It got
Same thing with Seattle.
downright Mad Max in some areas, and like
Crazy.
That's not how Portland had been for 10 years before that.
No.
And so it felt like I was going from there to like Beach Town. I mean, it was amazing. It was a very healthy transition in the timing of it.
Yeah. And the other thing about being here is like, I don't know if I do want to try to live in a different place. Like I don't feel
you
like
travel a lot though, right? Like I feel
yeah,
like that must help.
It does.
You get some wiggles out, you know?
Yeah, you're just like, oh, okay, this place isn't much different. All these places aren't much different than anywhere else. They have their cool things.
Yeah.
But like, it's really about the people you're around. It's really about that. And then I have a couple spots that I like to go to like relax and that I, kind of decompress in Rhode Island.
Donuts.
Dunkin Donuts.
Just different Dunkin Donuts?
No. You gotta have your one.
Dee-Dee's, your Dunkins, your Dunkin Donuts.
You gotta have your one Dunkin.
You have your one.
You can't go to the Dunkin down the street. You gotta go to the one.
I'm a Reservoir Ave Dunkin guy. That's it.
Yeah. That's it. That's it for me. I'll die at that Dunkin.
You're not wrong. My partner's grandfather has the one Dunkin.
Yeah,
he swears by it.
Yeah, and then they have the group of guys that go there.
He does. He actually meets with them. They sit there and talk for like 8 hours while the
about nonsense.
Poor employees are like, "Just get out of here."
About nonsense.
Yeah.
My dad is a honeydew guy.
Is he?
That's what he does with his group of dudes.
Is that the equivalent of like punk rock for Cranston? Do you think?
I don't know. Maybe.
Like I wonder if it's like going into a porn store. You're not supposed to be like seen
Not supposed
doing
to
it.
be there. Yeah. It's like,
If any of your buddies see
you. Did you see Jesse? He went into
he was in a honeydew.
the honeydew.
Atwell's Ave.
It's like, have you ever tried honeydew? No.
Yeah, it's the drug you're not supposed to admit you've tried, basically.
Yeah, it's like it goes like Starbucks. You don't want to be seen in a Dunkin Donuts, true. And then if you're a Dunkin Donuts, you don't want to be seen at Honeydew.
Yeah, you're right.
Honeydew, you don't want to be seen at like a Tim Hortons
or Sip and Dip.
Or a Sip and Dip.
Bottom. Yeah. Tim Hortons, yeah.
I don't know.
It's class warfare on the Dunkin' and coffee level.
I know. We did it to ourselves. That's fucking funny, dude. Okay, so I have a question from Katie Musselman, who is a big fan of the show. Asks a lot of questions, and they're always good. So she's referencing the part one. So the last time you were on, it was a two-parter, which this might be.
I'm so sorry.
As well, which is fine. A week less of work for me.
Because the AI does it?
AI does it. Part one episode with Gavin, he shares that he has a very loyal fan base. In what ways does having such a foundation nurture creativity? Does it hinder it in any way? So I guess just your fan base and if that plays any kind of role in your creativity, if it's something you think about, if it's something that you don't think about.
I'll tell you that... So for me, a very loyal fan base, I think that it's been important to me since Groove is Small. We used to say this, I think, that what we wanted was, and I will still argue this all day, for me as an artist, I want...
You're good.
I want a lavalier mic like a professional.
This teaches me I'm using the lavs every time from now on.
No, you should have told me to wear like a metal shirt.
It does ruin your shirt.
I had no idea. So I always want fans that are the most... what I want is for fans that are fans of my brain, not the output.
Okay.
And that is... It's a little unrealistic, but it's also kind of what I hope I've arrived at, wherein... And I don't think you can do it on a mass scale necessarily, but all that is to say is my ideal support group is people that go, I just want to pay you to make what you want to make because I trust the process. And I trust it. And I don't have to believe that what you make is going to be my favorite thing you've made. I don't even have to believe that it's going to change my life or going to save my life. I just want to believe, I just know that it'll be interesting. It may make me sad, it may make me happy, it may make me angry. I may just marvel at the craftsmanship of it. Go, this guy really knows how to put together a drum sound or something, whatever. But fundamentally, they invest in my brain, and then whatever it spits out, they pay what they can to support. That is what I want. I don't want someone that's like, I really like when you do rap albums, just do rap albums, please. Or like, I really like the Dunkin Donuts shit you do, stay on that. Like that is the nightmare to me that we grew up with in the 90s was...
I really like it when you do the AI covers. Stop doing your old shit. Do the 1500.
I love it when I give you songs that I wrote about, from your
You
perspective.
play those songs.
That's what it is. That's my nightmare.
Dude.
I never want to have my creative... It's so dishonest for me, and it makes no sense. It makes no sense for my creative output to be dictated by anyone but me. Like, I'm trying to express my experience in the world. How would it make any sense for anyone else to tell me what it should be, right? For me personally, if I'm going to be a journalistic writer like that, and I am, that's what makes sense. And so what I think I was saying in that episode was just that I have a small number of people that I think that's about what they pay for. And I think that's about why they like me. And they could totally tell you, yeah, these are my favorite songs. But they show up every time I put out a record, and it's never been more glaring than the last couple years when you can see that they can just stream it for free on Spotify, and they'll even tell me they're doing it, and they can pay what they want, and they'll pay exorbitant amounts that they don't need to pay just to support me. So I can say this record is $5, and they will throw me $50, or they'll throw me $20, and it's literally just their amazing way of saying, just keep going. Yeah. In fact, the number one comment I get from this small base of people is, just keep going, just keep going. Like, keep making stuff, please. And that's the ultimate achievement for me. It'd be amazing if that was 5,000 people so I could financially survive off it. But it doesn't matter. But what matters is that I did find and foster that relationship, I hope, I think. And that's the loyalty that I'm interested in, is show up for me and just reward me for trying over and over, you know what I mean? And give it a listen. But I totally get that some people will be like, I'm not a dad, that's not interesting to me. Or I only like shit you do with zombies in it or something. Like it's, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I
know exactly
I want them to pay for my creativity, not the particular way it manifests at any given time.
Yeah. I have a similar experience with the After the Gig fan base. It's like they support just because they want to. They love the community around it. They love what it means to them or what it means to me, and they go above and beyond for sure.
It's not like a per episode payment where they're like, I didn't like that one, so
right.
You know what I mean? Like I don't mean payment in particular, but the Patreon is definitely in that direction. Where it fosters, like you're paying for access to the brain in a way. It might have tiers and rewards at tiers, but like in general, I think in general those subscription services are in that direction of kind of like we're paying for you to keep doing stuff.
Yeah, the thing I don't like about those types of things is that it doesn't always include your audience as much as it could. It's more of like your paid YouTube channel, you know, rather than a thing. Because the way I see After the Gig in its like best form is that it's a group of people that are super like into concerts and artists, and they want to know all the behind the scenes and like how people think and how artists think and stuff like that. But it's also like, hey, I'm going to a show at the Hi-Fi in Indy, and I don't have anyone to go with or any After the Gig people going to be there. Like, oh yeah, we're
Real
going.
community,
Come hang out with us, and you can stand and hang out with us. And and it's people that are like, you know, they're there for the music. You've already had an interaction with these people via the internet or whatever, and like that, those people are like tight, and they're able to go to those
Are you
things.
saying subscription service don't do a good enough, or Patreon doesn't do a good job of fostering that? Is that what you mean?
I
When
think,
you say
I
they,
think
is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Patreon. Yeah, I think it could be better. You know,
That seems like a Discord application or something where
yeah.
where it seems centered more around the community itself than
The way I get around it is through the After the Gig group on Facebook.
Gotcha.
So that way I can.
That's the community, really.
Yeah, because I can interact with people. They comment. You know, like I don't want to put a paywall behind people enjoying the content. You know, I that's always been the struggle. It's like what gets to go on that thing.
Yeah, this wall you have.
And then like what gets to be for everybody, which I think everything should be for everybody, and there's an aspect of like doing it and be able to afford it and keep it going, and you know, whatever, you know, get super cool $2, you know, metal lighting things,
Get lavalier
mics, you know, that. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's all that stuff is just like growing and developing. Like as you go on, you realize like, okay, I'm never gonna use these things for one of these again. I'm gonna
that's not the lesson.
I'm gonna get the wired thing, and then
they wear
it was a funny
medieval
thing.
chainmail or something. They just have to wear stiffer shirts.
Like here, there's a dress.
Yeah,
code.
you just bring a shirt. You should have I gotta get a drink. You should just have a little wardrobe that you force. You're like, just pick one of these solid rock hard shirts.
Yeah, because it doesn't work on me. Like,
Yours is fine. I don't know why though. You just have a better chest than me.
I know. It's because I am. No.
What are you saying?
What are you saying? I have a better chest. No, it's because I'm constantly conscious of it.
Yeah. I guess you've not suffered from it. You know.
Yeah, it's not something
what
I
happens
want you
if
to
you
have
don't
to
do
think
it right.
about. Like,
and I don't actually know the pain of that.
Yeah,
the
fact that I have to like lean over and fix it and cut
fair.
off what you're saying.
I'm just gonna try and. I just have to keep this one angle.
Yeah, you look good. Natural.
This is natural.
It looks pretty natural. I think that might be all my questions. You answered whether it was self-produced or who the musicians were.
Did I inadvertently answer some of your other questions?
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it, man.
Sorry about that.
You AI'd it.
I didn't tell you that the artwork for Pattern Breaker
I was going to ask you about that.
is actually, that also was breaking my pattern, where...
That's in there.
What does it tell me a little bit about the artwork? Oh, yeah. It's a combination of Midjourney and Photoshop.
It looks awesome.
And what else did I have to do? I was just going to say, that was a perfect example of me going, okay, how can I try and use these tools that are wigging everybody out? And Midjourney's insane, like what you can do with it. And, but I just said this funny, I showed it to that same friend. He was like, did you paint this like this? And I was like, no. I actually made it with this stuff. And he was like, ugh. And I was like,
so what do you mean? You like it?
Yeah, you liked it a second ago when you believed something different about the process. But I said, I was, in an insecure way, I was delighted to say it took like 9 to 12 hours to make. Like, I was like, you don't understand, I spent a full day of just manipulating prompts to get the pieces that I then could not make it do what I wanted it to do. It's still too primitive. or I'm not good enough at the prompts or whatever. But I worked a long time and I watched a lot of tutorials. I did all this stuff to try to like, and in the end, I think it's really relevant to our conversation because one, the process actually inspired me in multiple points. I wasn't going to start out with a person's head with a city in it. I was starting out, the first thing I did was I opened up Midjourney and I just write Gavin Castleton Pattern Breaker. What do you do? I just want to see. I gave it nothing else. I didn't tell it a style or anything. And it made this weird labyrinthian Miyazaki looking illustration of looked like an MC Escher city, and these it struggled with language in the last model, and so you could see it was like parts of the word pattern breaker arranged in some like Latin or something. It was trying to like, so it was doing some weird thing with the wording, but it made this really crazy structure. And there was a little face in the structure, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I started playing with the idea of, like I took that and I tweaked it in a bunch of ways. And then I was like, well, I want this to be more about fatherhood. So I go, Gavin Castleton Fatherhood Pattern Breaker. Gives me this terrible picture of this like way too good looking guy holding his son. And like, what's the creepiest stuff about those is when you just ask for a generic thing like man, woman, you get to see what the beige of the internet spits out. You're like, this is what the internet says a man looks like. It's gross. In that it's so aesthetically symmetrical and you know what I mean?
It's just like a model. Like
it's like this gross model person that you're like, okay, I've never seen a dad look that good. Like it makes you mad when you're telling a dad and you're like, dads don't have that much hair. Or like, you know,
dads have way more hair than that. But not there.
Yeah, exactly. That guy can still see his feet. So, it just... Anyway, I abandoned that prompt. But my point was that, like, at various points, the tool inspired me in a way that made me excited. That I was like, I wouldn't have thought of that, but I like it. And then I'm spitting, and then and for me, as a person that came from comic books and animated films and all these things growing up, it was miraculous to be able to say, do it in the style of Jim Lee. Do it in the style of Frank Miller or something. Like just grab that because they've stolen the work of all these artists and just put it in the machine and made it a black box. You can call upon those and you can mix and match them in ways that are completely, you have no idea what's going to come out. So I did a fair bit of that. My point is, this experimentation went on for 9 hours or so. It was 2 days of just me going, no, not that. Okay. But the idea shaped itself throughout the process. And eventually it's, okay, I want the face of a child, my child, but I want it to be this city. And I want it to be floating in the air, but I want it to be labyrinthian, like I want it to be impossible in a way. And I want it to represent the struggle of my logic brain against my emotional brain. And so I'm feeding it these things to try and make this, but still be more abstract than I typically would. And eventually... And then I got into the textures you can do. And I'm like, wow, it does an amazing job of like stained glass and like all these things. You could do these things. You can make something that looks like real paper mache. And it looks like somebody actually crafted this whole thing, but you made this insane thing. You can make art that is intensely labor intensive if you were to make it in real life, right? Like, but you can also cross-pollinate, and that's the magic. And anyway, in the end, I couldn't get the full result, so I start pulling pieces in and pulling them into Photoshop, and then I take a photo of my son, but I don't trust the algorithm to have any imagery of my son, so I pull it into Illustrator and I trace over it and I vectorize certain parts of it and I take his profile. And then I graft it onto some of the things from Midjourney, and then I graft on these pieces of cities that I had built and I put them in there, and then I take each of the letters, because it's so resistant to repeating exact phrases. I take each of the letters of all the words, and then I cut those, and so all the years and years I've spent getting good with tools like Photoshop still came into play, but the tool did serve for some of the foundational imagery and some of the inspiration. And in the end, I landed on something that I felt like I had to work for, but that also was something I couldn't have made otherwise. And that was a positive experience to me. it's also because the tool is still very primitive. Like maybe I wouldn't have that feeling if 2 years from now I could just have said it and it would have given me what I wanted. Slowly, like the vision came in my head and I knew what I was trying to make it do. And what's really funny, if you look at my Mid-Journey feed, is just over and over again, no, like the face is facing forward, like just like, please. And it got to the point multiple times in the experience where I'm like, should I just draw this? Like what? Like I'm giving it all these example images. I'm saying no, like, and my experience with Mid-Journey for multiple projects in the last couple months have all been that, where I'm like, I just need the feet to face forward, like it's still rough around. It's still very rough to push it into what you want. It's almost better when you don't know what you want.
Okay.
It almost behaves like it's delectable at that point. But when
you want something specific, it's really
then all of a sudden you're like, bah! And then it's like that's when Photoshop might make more sense, or that's when you start to go, should I just like mock this up myself or a combination? And so I might have even done the whole thing in Mid-Journey if I could make it do it. And honestly, the first thing it spat out, I think would be dope album art. The very first thing when I just put in my thing and it made something, I wouldn't have thought of it. I have no idea why it thought that represented those words, but I also think it looked awesome and was beautiful, and the color of it was interesting. And I was just kind of like, and for a minute I was like, there's my artwork, I'm done.
Yeah.
That I would have never done. I labor over this artwork usually.
Yeah.
And I usually do most of it myself, if not all of it.
This doesn't feel right.
Yeah. I was like, this is really easy. So at first I was kind of like, okay, you know, it was what I feared. And maybe I need to be okay with it. And then, anyway, that was the experience of the artwork. And I never, for what it's worth, in the whatever number of artworks I've now put out in the world, I've never received so many compliments as that artwork. Isn't it crazy?
It's so good. I mean, I really like, I'm trying to go back, I really like the home artwork.
I do too. Justin Muir did that. Do you know that?
Oh, yeah.
He had a big hand in making it look like it did.
Talk about talented dudes.
Yeah, exactly.
He's fantastic. I really love that artwork, and this one, when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, it's very intriguing.
It's really cool. I think the whole thing, like all the music and the whole package is really great, Gavin.
Thank you.
It's awesome. So I feel like this question is gonna, be anticlimactic, but
do I like AI?
Do you like AI? Are you
just back to the top? Just trying to spin me up again.
It's a loop.
Until I say yes, you just keep asking me?
Yeah, it's going to be a 32-hour long episode.
Yeah, all right, I like it. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's great. It's great. It's the kids. No, the song Ambition. Like the way when I heard it, and usually I don't pick apart. Not that I'm picking anything apart, but it's not the first thing I'm hearing the lyrics and stuff and like the message and all that stuff. But like with your music, it seems to happen naturally. Like I'll hear it and be like, oh, that's interesting, because it's very like accessible. The thing
colloquial almost. Like I think it's not often shrouded in metaphor, or at least not deeply, at least.
Right, because it's like
it's a little on its sleeve.
Everybody can kind of relate to these things, like especially the song Ambition. It's not necessarily about like losing your ambition, but like having a different relationship with it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You know what I mean? Like I thought that was a really cool thing, and when we were talking about moving back to like Rhode Island and those feelings and those thoughts, and then also ambition, like, okay, I need to be the biggest star, I need to have X amount of fans, I need to play these certain rooms or whatever, like having a better relationship, or just having a better relationship with ambition is just more relaxing. It's like it's more freedom. You have more freedom when you just let go of those things and you just work on the task in front of you.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, I think.
All right, I guess that's it.
Thank you for answering. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I have anything to add to that. But yeah, I think it's changing the relationship. I think for so long I didn't. And it says this actually, the song is structured like an essay. I also applied like a very different, like a more of an academic structure where each section is like a question and then a pontification on the answer or something. So, and preceded all by a hypothesis, or at least an introduction that says, you know, for all these years I did this, but I never actually interrogated my ambition. I don't know why. I just, like, until this moment, until my son is born, I said, the reason is ambition. That was like the end of the sentence, where I'll be, you know, why are you gonna make albums like as many as you can? Why are you doing this? Because like I'm ambition, and that's a good thing, and like people should be ambitious. Ambition matters, and like, you know, like this sort of this drive that is the source has never been examined, and so the song starts, you know, asking that question. The very first verse is this about getting your father's attention? Is this about capitalism? What is this about? And then the final verse saying, this is what I think it will look like when I graduated it. And says, it says, I think I'm done with you. It's speaking to ambition, right? I think I'm done with you. I think I'm done with you. I can't remember. But anyway, I didn't write it. I mean, AI wrote it. It was good. ChatGPT wrote it.
Yeah.
But
it was all a ruse. I didn't.
It was a good idea. But
it was the first prompt.
It was the first prompt. It was perfect. Yeah, it just basically says, I'll be left alone with the things that matter. Laughter and awe, something in wonder, and the love of my son who will know he's enough. It's kind of just saying, like, it's a reassessment of what matters, which is, you know, what everyone probably does periodically in their life after some sort of meltdown or big transition. And I think that, but it made me, I think it's the hardest thing for me to interrogate because I have my identity wrapped around it so hard. And so it's not even, I was treating it as my spine instead of like my fingertips or something, like an extension of me. It was central to who I was. And I think that's a mistake. And I think that I just, it's easier to continue with that as a driving force, just like capitalism is easier than challenging capital. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really easy to get on autopilot. That feels easier to execute on than to have no defined trajectory by some like assigned to you at birth. And so to me, it's a little scary, the idea of eschewing ambition. But to your point, you're really dead on when you say it's about adjusting your relationship. It's not, and so I think it says I don't want to stop working. I want to work on being still. I don't want to, like, the choruses are all these very narrow tweaks to the thrust of ambition. And so I'm not saying I just don't want to do anything. Like the response, if you tell someone like, I think ambition is bad, you know, like they go, what are you going to do? Be lazy, sit around, not do anything? Like we have such a bad feeling about that in this country.
It's like it's like, I'm not trying to not be ambitious. I'm just trying to work on my aim.
Yeah. That's the right way to put it, is that, and so redirecting each of the facets or the aims of ambition, or where they've led me into a healthier path, is like the takeaway of the song to me. It's so on the nose. It's so like not hiding in metaphor, and for that reason, I think
that's good for me.
Would really resonate with some people. That will be, and then I think for some people, that kind of song can also be a bit much. It's like, I got it, dude. You're always talking about yourself. You know what I mean? I got it. You're doing
it's like, yeah, it's my song. You want to hear someone else talk about themselves? Go listen to another song.
Yeah. Whereas a song like Layoffs is more like comedy. Like it's more entertainment, you know?
Yeah. It's like, I don't know anyone that couldn't at least relate to it on some level, you know?
Yeah, I hope so. It did pretty well on LinkedIn. I I was gonna tell you.
The song's crush on LinkedIn.
I actually made. Did you see the video for it by any chance?
No.
Okay, I made a video that actually relevant to our conversation again. Because I was playing with all these AI tools, I used an AI avatar generator that marketing tools use to put on their boilerplate websites that say, like for instructionals, like so you pick from all these fake humans, and you can write a script and you can put in all these different languages, and they spit out this weird person. You upload a background, and before you know, like all these videos on YouTube, a lot of them are these things now.
Yeah.
And
They spit out all this content.
yeah, so I went for the creepiest looking guy I could find, and then I made a Zoom chat thing. This involved a lot of editing to make this actually work the way I did, because I interviewed all these friends, I was like, okay, you're getting fired, act like you're getting fired, and then the CEO is singing the song using my vocal, but it's trained on my lips. So he's singing. And there's a Slack chat hanging the whole time with these people kind of talking trash about him. So it's from the perspective of the guy, the CEO firing them, but he's also an AI avatar, which takes it up a level of cynicism. And they're just all kind of like, what the? So I put that on LinkedIn. I just thought it'd be the funniest thing to launch a video on LinkedIn over any other site. And I just was like, what if it actually did well? It didn't do that great, but like, I just thought it'd be really funny if it became like a viral piece of content on LinkedIn. But LinkedIn algorithm skews to positive, and so they don't really want to talk about layoffs that much on there. Right. There was a reason I was telling you that. I can't even remember about layoffs. Shit. Oh, no, I was going to...
It's like you're talking about on the nose, not skewed.
Yeah, that one's entertainment more.
Yeah.
Should still resonate with people that have been... I want people that have been through it to feel very heard, and that's all the feedback I get is like, dude, that's like exactly what they say. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's a template they use. Yeah. It's disgusting.
It's like because you have to have a script or a template.
Yeah.
Because
or you
if
might
you realize what you're actually
get
saying.
Sued. Yeah, right. Or you have to remain emotionally bereft, or else you
exactly.
could. Yeah. I was going to tell you one last little Easter egg about ambition, because you made me think of it. That song starts with a string quartet. Mm-hmm. Playing this I remember telling them, play this as snooty and as regal as you can, like sound, like play it as cocky as you can, whatever that means from a string player's perspective. And that's what the intro of the song is. It's a very long intro, and it's very melodically and harmonically ambitious. The way it moves around is really weird. And then it goes into what I never put on a record, which is sort of this Snoopy's jam, like Motown-y kind of piano jam rock. And the band, and kind of playing like funk, or more like soul, not like the kind of funk I normally put on my records, but like this really jammy kind of thing. And anyway, I think that was or that could be seen as confusing to some people. I think that was the point of that was really that the hypothesis or the introduction is over this really heady thing, and then the music is really not. All the answering to the like the intro is the ambition, the creative musical ambition, and the bed underneath all the analysis is really lax for me. Is really not what I would normally let myself do.
Interesting.
I was terrified, and I said this to the rhythm section. You may, as a drummer, find this amusing, but I remember saying to Tony, the drummer, who's actually Rustic Overtone's old drummer, Tony. I remember saying to him, this song is so dangerously white that if just a couple of, like if you go, we're done. If you do boom boom, if you do this soul beat and then you go, then you have crossed over and we are now a high school funk band.
Yeah.
And it rides this line. Every instrument, the same with the guitarist. I was like, please don't do down, please don't play that rhythm. We're that close. You have to pick a rhythm that still provides the same groove and rhythm, but that will have been when it's distractingly bad.
Yeah.
And weirdly off, weirdly unfunky for someone with my tenure of funkiness or something. So I don't know.
With my stature of
Yeah, with my
funkism.
with my various funk accolades. There, you know what I'm saying? There was like a.
How I'm known through the land. Gavin Castleton.
I'll never be
Funk.
let back in this town.
You want to play funk in Cranston, you have to speak to Gav Cass.
Yeah, exactly. Find me at the top. I think
I'll meet you at the gazebo in Garden City.
where the best funk happens. The best funk happens at midnight in the Garden City.
Right next to
Gazebo.
the Pottery Bar.
Newport Creamy is just a stone throw away.
Right, we'll go there later for awful waffles.
All the funk personnel hang out at Newport Creamy. Yeah. Anyway, I think that I don't know if that's that interesting. It's interesting to me. I don't know that like just to me. I guess I'm saying another pattern breaky thing is me letting that bed be like that under that song. I could have made something much more technical and interesting and contemporary funky if I wanted, and instead it's this funny almost Charlie. I said Snoopy. I think I mean Charlie Brown, but
Right.
but piano rock thing, and it comes out of this really strange string thing.
Yeah, because like a lot of your stuff has complex, like polyrhythmic stuff.
Yeah, there's like
going
none
on
of that in
underneath.
there. There's none of it.
Which is
know?
another reason why I think it makes it just so digestible and like and not that like that's better or worse than anything, but it's this package deal of like, hey, here's these things that everyone deals with: layoffs, ambition, the relationship with that, being a new dad or whatever,
Yeah, sleep deprivation.
Yeah, sleep deprivation and all that stuff. It's like, okay, we have all these themes that a vast majority of people deal with, and it's like, you know, the music is also digestible, super cool, but there's not all these other things happening with it in this particular
Yeah, it helps
album.
not distract from those lyrics. That might help those lyrics stand out more too.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, yeah, it's a weird central piece to the record. I think it's about in the middle. And I remember some folks asking me early on if the string thing, like I think the marrying of those two, when unexplained, seems strange. And then when at least that was my experience telling some friends. I'm like, what is this intro? It's like 2 minutes long. Is it his own song? Why don't you make its own song?
Yeah.
I was like,
This makes me more excited to go back and listen again to like hear these things and how they relate to each other. It's cool.
someday I will too.
Until I don't completely hate it. That's the problem.
Exactly.
That's the problem. You work so hard, and it's like, oh, like at one point you were like, "That's sick," and then now it's just like I can't listen to it.
I heard those songs 8 million times. So for me, it's that I drilled them. If I didn't edit my own stuff, if that wasn't part of the process, and all the production and all the like, I sit with those songs and I hear them 8 million times. That was part of bringing on another mixing engineer. Also, is like, can I get my ears out of this? Please, can someone with more objective ears actually mix this? Because I bet you they could do a better job.
Yeah.
So
It's so difficult to, because I mean, when I released a single in December, and it's like just doing it all yourself, and then the mixing and going back and forth, and I'm not anywhere near as like, I have a vision for the song or what I want to do with what I want it to sound like, but I don't have maybe all the technical skill to accomplish the things that I need to accomplish to get them exactly the way that I want them. There's more of an ambiguousness to how I record and when I do it myself. So to like listen over and over and over again and be like, just being able to pick out like little things in there and have to get them right, because if you do listen to it again, it's gonna kill you. If you're like, I can't believe I didn't spend the extra time to nudge that snare, because now it's a little ahead of the beat. And this song is dead to me
8 million times.
and I can't deal with it. So you have to have, especially if you're giving off someone else to editing or engineering or mixing, whatever. It's like you got to be on board with at least that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
My hope is I hand over this stuff. I bet you I'd be more offended by a bad edit than a bad mix. Which says something about me, and I'm not even sure that's a good thing at all. But I was thinking about when you're saying that, I'm like, I wonder how I'd feel if I thought, what would I hate more? Sending him something and hearing that I missed an edit and like the snare drum is ahead of the beat, or sending him something and I edited it perfectly, but then when I get it back, I don't like how quiet the snare drum is.
They're both. They both suck.
They both would kill me.
They both suck, because a bad edit is just like, that is someone sitting down and being like, I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah, it's a time problem, you're saying? Or they don't have attention to detail, potentially.
Not enough attention to detail, or they're just like, okay, we're moving on.
Yeah.
You know, and not willing to spend the extra time doing it. And then the mix thing is just like, you know, it depends on
it's subjective.
It's a little more subjective.
Yeah,
it depends on what you're mixing on, where you're listening.
Yeah, totally.
Because it sounds different in different places.
Yeah,
and like, yeah, I mean, but like whenever I'm mixing or listening to something, I can only really change it if it jumps out to me as bad. And I listen, I'm like, that's weird, gotta fix that, and then I move on and then go again. That's weird, move on, and then I just get it to a point where it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
That's my mixing process.
That sounds smart. Do you think that there's when you do your own song completely, are you playing all the instruments on it?
Yeah.
So do you have a sense of a bias or a blind spot towards a particular instrument when you, like, how do you feel about the balance of the elements when you're not just the drummer or something? You know, like when you're all the things, do you think, I still kind of mix drums loud? Probably. If someone, like, what do you think about your objectivity when you're doing everything?
That's a great question. That's a really good question.
Give me the paper.
We're changing.
Now it begins.
Yeah. Where's your computer? I'm gonna type some things up. AI?
I should have prepared some questions from your community. Actually, I have a few questions.
That would be really funny if I tell everybody that is able to come do it at the house. Like, you have to type up something and then just pull out paper.
Interrogate you.
It could have nothing on it. Just
totally.
You need to pull out.
I should have just grabbed this.
Yeah, so I have this.
Like, actually, Jesse,
here.
I'll be asking the questions this time.
Yeah. Okay. Is this plant real? No. Where was
Bias and blind spots in your mixes.
Yeah. So I always try to make the drums sound good. You know, and I do have a tendency to prefer a way that they sound. So like the way that I prefer to hear sounds probably wouldn't work on your record, or maybe it would work on a song or two, wouldn't work on other things.
Okay.
But like, I am getting better at experimenting more with the sounds and how it relates to the songs, the more I kind of wear the songwriter hat.
Right. It
You
makes
know
sense.
what I mean?
Yeah, it opens, or you start to consider, so you're saying you come from a place of, there's a good sounding drum kit.
Yeah, this is how I like drums to sound.
I want it to sound like this.
Yeah.
I'm not really thinking about, does that make sense within the song? I'm just thinking, I know what a bad sounding kit is and I know what a good sounding kit is.
Right.
It's a little more binary.
Right.
And now
it's like I could make this sound like, let's say, a Stephen Kellogg song as opposed to a Carbon Leaf song.
Yeah.
Stephen Kellogg song, I know if I'm playing live with him, I'm going to have a really deep, kind of gougey sounding snare drum that works really well for most of his music. It's going to be the best chance I have to make everything sound good in that live setting.
Yeah.
I can always, bring a second snare drum for whatever, or use a different like ride cymbal to have a different texture that'll work for certain things. Great. Carbon Leaf is a more tuned up snare drum. There are maybe 2 songs that we play on any given night that would have a deeper sounding drum. I try to like maybe put something on the drum or something to get it to sound a little closer, but it's not going to be how I would record it on the record. So the more I go through wear the songwriting hat, the more I'm like open to changing things. Like I have it hits a different part of my brain or whatever. But like as far as guitars and stuff, like I completely want to hear, I kind of want to hear everything. And I place things in a certain place. I love hearing the electric guitars. Like I'll show you the mix and how I did it and how it sounds and stuff. But like my problem is eliminating things. So I'll put things in there. Maybe I'll add too many harmonies, and I'll be like,
Can't let it go.
I can't let it go.
Yeah.
That's my big problem.
Yeah.
So, but with this tune, I feel like I had the best of most worlds. I played it for a lot of people when I was in the mixing process and took a lot of, mixing tips.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And it that one was bizarre because it came easy.
The writing, you mean, or the mixing?
The writing of the song came easy. The mixing just took time. It was just like whenever I had available time, I could do it. And like, it was very obvious to me, like what needed to be fixed. And then once I got it to a point, I was like, all right, let's send it to mastering and let's just get it. For me, it was just about getting it out. Cause like the polar opposite to you've put out a lot of stuff. I very much have the like kind of fear of putting myself out there too much as far as like songwriting is concerned, and putting songs out there and having them judged. And because I know so many great songwriters that have so much great stuff out there that it's like I'm really thinking about what they think. But the older I get, the less I care about that, and more I'm like, I just got to do it. Even if it's just for me, it's a big part of my life, and I just need to have the songs and put them out there.
What's this song about, the one you just did?
What's it about?
Yeah, like lyrically, what was it?
It's called Chemical, and it's about just, so like during the pandemic, I worked part-time with my brother who owns a company that is a partner with Amazon. So like his company has the vans, the Prime vans that deliver stuff. So I was part-time managing the fleet, making sure everything, like talking to dealerships and vendors and, garages to fix things and whatever. So doing a lot of that stuff. But the thing I noticed is that when I was working at this place, you notice the workers that are in the warehouse and how they're just in this cycle of, they come in and they have their hourly, they work and they work and work, and some of them have like 3 jobs and maybe 2 kids or something like that, or multiple kids, multiple moms, all that stuff. And they're stuck in this cycle and they don't know necessarily how to get out of it. And, they do so much and they can only get so far.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is like, and then I've also had friends that have had stressful jobs and stuff, and like OD'd and died and things like that. So a lot of it is the chorus is, I do a lot, never enough. What I need is all I have. Like I can't get any more than that thing, and which is not necessarily a bad thing, but that's all I can get. And what I need is all I have. Take a chance, leave it alone, which is kind of a throwaway. And then what I need is a chemical. So like what I need is this thing to escape from like there's got to be more. And that feeling makes us want to drink and do drugs and stuff like that. But which isn't like the most central theme to it. It's more about like, I'm just disappointed with like what's wrong with the way I'm thinking. Why can't I get myself out of this?
So is it from the perspective of those guys, or did you feel like it was from your perspective?
It was a little bit, it was from my perspective, like, learning how to live stream and learning how to do all this stuff and not necessarily seeing more in the bank account, or
totally.
like, and not, and always just trying to learn, like just being behind. You're always like a step behind.
Maybe that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. Always feeling like a step behind.
Yeah.
So it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of came pretty naturally. And release it in December. And
what'd you track first? Did you do guitar and voice or something?
I did a probably just like acoustic guitar and voice, just to get the
Structure
nuts and
and
bolts, and then I recorded drums. So
That's my main question. Is like, as a drummer, would you start with drums somehow, or like,
sometimes, like,
you can do that and just kind of sing it in your head while
yeah,
you're playing?
yeah. I'll have the structure in my head, and like, and I'll know where the chorus is. I'll know where I want to ramp it up. Like, I have those little things already in my head.
Yeah.
So I can do that, and then afterwards, if I
You could go retrack, I guess.
if I feel weird about a section or something, I can always, everything's just kind of set up, but you have to be careful, because if you don't get it right and you tear things down, then you're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
So you have to either retrack over the thing, and then that has tempo, weird
Well,
tempo things.
so you don't use a click?
I do.
Okay.
I do, but you'll
The
notice.
feel is all locked in with the drum?
Yeah. You'll notice things in the mix that I noticed that I definitely was like, I don't have the capability to like really lock this, digitally and do an amazing edit. Like, I can do some things, but there's places where we'll just say it feels natural, like, and
You mean overly human?
oh, it's super human, man.
That's the euphemism you gotta use.
Yeah.
I just want a piece of humanity here.
Do you hear this like superhuman spot? Like, it's sick. Miles Davis said, "Leave the mistakes in." You think you're smarter than Miles Davis? Yeah, that's what I say. But I don't know. It's cool for me. It was a good first shot at it, and I don't know if I would do it all myself again. I'd probably have someone engineer it, or at least edit certain aspects of it. But I did have a great keyboard player, played piano and keys. This dude Ty Bailey, he's in Nashville. He's he was Joss Stone's musical director. He played with Katy Perry for a long time. He's with Mitski. She's Mitski. She's a pop artist that's out on the road right now, and he's out on the road with her, and he played with Alan Stone. It's crazy. Yeah, wow. So he's great. And
that's awesome.
He's an awesome dude too.
So you just send it to him and he tracked it remotely and stuff?
Yeah.
Sorry, I catch you in a lie?
Yeah, man. No. I played all the parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent it to him. He recorded remotely. He sent me the stems, and then I added, I mixed it and all that stuff, and did some stuff to it. So
that's becoming so much more popular. This new record I'm working on, I think I might have to do horns that way. Send it out and come back. I don't like not being in the room, but
yeah.
But it can be affordable, or the talent you can get is pretty insane. Some options.
For me, I don't have that. If I had like a proficiency on more instruments, or if I felt like I could do it better than someone else, I would feel the same way. But whenever I write some of these parts or whatever, I very much give whoever I'm having record on it.
You want their instincts.
I want like, I'm
that's
asking.
part of what the benefit is.
I'm asking them because I know that they're gonna come up with something cool. Like, this dude came up with literally like one of the key motifs in the song.
Awesome.
And like, as soon as he sent it back, I was like, oh my god,
thank you.
that you did it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And it's rad. So it's cool.
That's great. But this isn't with an album. It's just a single you put out.
It's a single, and this is the.
I hope you're going to point to a gold record. This is the
15
gold that I got from doing it.
15 billion streams.
Immediately. Who knew?
It's crazy. It's crazy. This house paid for.
A single you made like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, first try. I've been doing this for 30 years. Yeah, and I actually built these frames.
Okay.
So I made those in my wood shop.
Are you getting into woodworking?
Yeah, I'm working on a podcasting table for down here.
Nice.
And my first attempt at a coffee table for over there.
Oh yeah.
I'll show you.
You're getting serious. Can I see this shop?
Yeah, it's in the
I would
garage.
love to. I'm kind of into woodworking.
Are you?
Yeah, I saw this. I'm going to call it a meme on Instagram the other day that this guy's like, I don't know when he's like, what? He said something to the effect of like, how do I know that I'm in my 40s? I don't feel in my 40s. And he's like, oh, I know. It's because I talk about sheds, and I'm really interested in what's in sheds. And why is it, like, he's telling this whole joke about,
I got a shed too.
like, yeah, like getting weirdly interested in sheds. I'm like, that's spot on. Like,
Yeah.
I all of a sudden care about woodworking. Like, I could have in my youth, but it was never as interesting to me as it is now. Now I'm like, I love building stuff.
Yeah, well, you go into a store and it's like, oh, this kind of shitty thing that isn't exactly the way that I would like it.
Make the thing I actually want.
Is how much?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then-
true.
And
if you know the price of the wood, you're like, that's insane.
Yeah, and it's just it's satisfying. And it's cool because you're working on something. It's imperfect. You have to like kind of make it work.
Huh.
And
That's nice.
I think they came out cool.
They came out awesome, and your placement of them makes a lot of sense too. I like that it's not all black frames. Like, I like the diversity. I think it's good. You need one more over here.
Yeah, still, it's a work in progress. I like the color you chose.
Yeah, the accent wall.
Yeah, we're all about the accent walls here in the Humphrey house. You got a green one in the living room.
Do you? I didn't see it.
Yeah, well, it's because the room's a mess. You probably dissociate.
I was
from
just
the room.
looking
You're
down.
just like, oh god,
Out
this
of
reminds
respect.
me of my child and how messy everything is. My wife says, like, are you gonna clean up? I was like,
Oh, don't bother. He's a dad.
He gets it. All right, dude.
100%. Still got
Awesome.
it. Still got it.
I think I didn't read any of this.
I don't remember anything I said.
It's all about AI. You do a quick pick and then
Sure.
for the thumbnail.
So much for joining me for this week's After the Gig. Please check out the newsletter, the After the Gig newsletter that I release every week around 10 a.m. And that features music news and a bit of music business snippets by me. And the After the Gig community on Patreon is growing. So that's patreon.com/afterthegig. Would love to have you a part of that. That's a special place where we share behind the scenes, exclusive content, and all kinds of things like that. Live streams, very fun stuff on Patreon. You can click the links below. That's where you can get it. And I'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.